Question 5, again calling the Honourable Member for Douglas Central, Mr Thomas.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'd leave to ask the Minister for Enterprise what the findings of his department's 2018 Local Economy Resilience Report and subsequent investigations of the retailing sector were, and what support is in place and planned to support town and village centre retailing.
On the Minister for Enterprise to reply.
Good morning, Lord. I thank the Honourable Member for his question, which I understand to refer to the Domestic Sector Resilience Study undertaken by Peter Brett Associates on behalf of the Department. This was a broader study into the domestic sectors, not just the retail sector, and included insight into construction, catering, hospitality and tourism. The study identified a range of issues, including a skill shortage across a range of domestic sectors, decrease in numbers of economically active population, the impact of work permits on recruitment, the impact of minimum wage on business viability, and a declining nighttime economy. Since the study, a number of these areas are being addressed. The work permit system has been reformed with the support of Tynwald to ensure a streamlined, fully online process, and supported by a firm commitment in the programme for government, and the activities of Locate Isle of Man have focused on increasing the economically active population. The Department has also supported town and village regeneration through a financial support scheme and trial pedestrianisation of North Quay to support nighttime economy. Furthermore, during 2018, the Department established the executive agency model, with Business Isle of Man taking the lead responsibility for the island's domestic sectors, including retail. The agency is actively engaged in understanding the specific needs of the retail sector, and this work is made more important by the effect of COVID and the impact this has had on both local and UK national retailers. The Economic Recovery Group has dedicated a theme of our domestic economy, which has supported initiatives such as Domestic Events Fund and Love IOM Local Spend campaign. Gurmai.
Supplementary question, Mr Thomas.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I appreciate the frank and full answer from the Minister. Would the Minister undertake to publish the Peter Brett Associates Local Economy Resilience or Domestic Economy Report, or at least make it available to Tynwald Policy Review Committees and the Manx National Economic Development Forum, who had it promised throughout 2018? Secondly, would the Minister agree that supporting town and village centre shops and sub-post offices hasn't been an important part of the Enterprise Department's strategy in the last few years? It's more been about increasing the population and work permits and all the other things, locate.im and all the other things that was mentioned in the Minister's answer just then.
Bye.
Good morning. First of all, I'd just like to say that the domestic sector and retail sector is important, and we would not say it isn't in any shape, fashion or form. But clearly that report is quite wide-ranging in the domestic sectors, and it did cover tourism, hospitality, catering and construction as well at the same time. I will be happy to allow members access to it. Scrutiny committees clearly would have access to it ordinarily, and so there is no problem with regards to that.
Supplementary question, Mr Morehouse.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. When was the report received, and what ongoing dialogue is occurring between the Department and small retailers?
Minister to reply.
The report goes back to 2018, and I think we'd like to. I think we recognise that as an entirely different era altogether. Since we've set up the executive agency model, the business agency is responsible for the domestic sectors, and they have representation on that agency, as well as our regular contact with other organisations, local retailers directly, the Chamber of Commerce, and so forth.
Supplementary question, Ms Edge.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Would the Minister agree that subsidies to support and grow the retail sector in towns and villages, generating economic and social benefits, should be provided on a fair and transparent basis by his department?
Minister to reply.
Lord, yes, agree. Absolutely, should be on a fair and transparent basis. And we do provide support and have provided support and continue to. And there are a number of different schemes that retail. We've had questions before that we have supported. We've got the Micro Business Grant Scheme, the Business Improvement Scheme, the Town and Village Regeneration Scheme, the Business Energy Savings Scheme, the Accessibility Grant, just to name a few. And of course, we have added extra ones where we've seen severe impacts, and that is the Douglas Promenade Scheme.
Question, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Delighted that the business agency is working on retail provision in towns and village centres. Would the Minister advise what the business agency's policy is in respect of town and village centre retailing? Secondly, the Chief Minister, when he set up his action plan for planning reform, and when he asked the Minister for Environment, Food and Agriculture to lead it and to staff it, put reform of the retailing sector as one of the strategic planning policy reforms that he wanted brought before the end of 2020. Can the Minister advise whether the Department for Enterprise has actually input into that revision of retailing to encourage the last shop, to encourage town and village centre inside the last couple of years? And finally, can the Minister advise why his department chose to spend £500,000 on events and £1 million extra on town and village centre regeneration, and hasn't as yet, it seems, dedicated a budget to town and village centre retailing if it's such an important policy for the department?
Minister to reply.
Good night. The first question there, and it was quite a series there. First question is with regards to policy. Policy immediately is about stimulating spend in our local economy. And that is exactly what the Economic Recovery Group has been set up to establish. And we have seen excellent examples of that. And the one that comes to mind is the Superman's bank holiday that we enjoyed. We saw the domestic economy thrive on the back of that. And I will say the campaign with regards to Love IOM and local spend, which is not just by government, but actually by industry as well, and the great Manx public are spending locally, and we encourage them to continue to spend locally. The two funds that he just stated there, the events fund, there's a £500,000 set up, and this is obviously through Economic Recovery Group, which is not just our department, but Treasury and the Cabinet Office that do support that. And that is generating quite a lot of interest, and I know several areas of the island and members are engaging with this to try and generate events in their local areas to increase that spend and that stimulus that we talk about. The £1 million with regards to Regeneration Fund is actually an old scheme that's actually been topped up, and it's shown that it does support the retail sector, and we hope that this will continue.
Question, Mr. Morehouse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The report was wide-ranging and quite historic by modern standards, but did it actually consider the impact of bank and post office closures on local businesses?
Minister to reply.
Yes, Gurmayat, obviously stretching out there now with regards to banking issues. Yes, that's a historic issue and a continued issue. I know even Lord has asked questions with regards to that, as many of you others have, with regards to just even opening bank accounts. One interesting piece of evidence that came out very recently, we were compared with the Channel Islands, and the Isle of Man actually has this very same risk profile with regards to banks. But one key difference here on the Isle of Man is our diverse economy. We have up to 60% more start-up businesses on our island, and clearly start-up businesses have a very, very different risk profile in the vast range of 24 sectors that we do represent.
Final supplementary, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In that strategic plan we made in 2016, there are two specific policies about retailing. Business Policy 5, which is the one about when retailing can be out of town, and Community Policy 4, which is the one about development, including the change of use of existing premises, the loss of local shops, local pubs, which is only can only be allowed if the use is no longer commercially viable. Can the Minister advise whether he's made any specific recommendation to actually rebalance those two strategic plan policies as part of the Chief Minister's action plan for planning system reform, as was laid out in May 2018 for completion by December 2020?
Minister to reply.
Yes, good admired. And I think the Honourable Member is highlighting what technically is a planning issue around this, and this is all about in-town retail. And that policy remains, as far as I'm concerned, as far as the Department is concerned. We would still support that in-town retail principle.